Okay, everyone, this is Kiyomi and Devon here from Center of Life. And we're really excited to have Erin Barr with us from the UpStreet program, which is part of Jewish Family Community Services. So we're going to have Erin talk to us about free counseling services for our young people ages 12 to 22, which is such a needed and valued resource. So we're super excited to have her. So we're going to go ahead and get things started.
Okay, thanks, Kiyomi. Thank you all for being here. I'm really looking forward to telling you all about UpStreet and maybe even hearing a little bit from you about what more we could be doing or what else we should be doing with this very new program. So let me share my screen and make sure I'm sharing the right screen. Can you see me? Or not me, can you see my screen?
Yes, you're good.
Okay, great. All right, so UpStreet is a new way to connect with mental health support. So like Kiyomi said, my name is Erin Barr. I'm the clinical coordinator for UpStreet. So I don't think I'm going to be a full hour. I heard someone say they needed to leave right at 7 for something else. So unless you all have a lot of questions, which is fine, I myself don't need a full hour. So you should be able to make your 7 o'clock with no problem. I do have this slide presentation that I will have up on the screen just to give you something to look at and gives me some focus when I'm talking, because I have the tendency to kind of keep talking about things in circles sometimes. Like I said, I am happy to answer any questions at any point. So if you want to just sort of interrupt me, or if it's hard for me to watch the chat and my screen. So if there's things that come up, don't hesitate. You can just jump in whenever it makes sense. Okay. So when I talk about UpStreet, I always talk about what our original vision was, because like so many things, COVID changed things significantly for us. Our original plan was to open a walk-in center that was to be located in Squirrel Hill, right on Murray Avenue, which we thought was sort of a place that made sense because it's right up the street from Alderdice High School. So there would be a lot of high school students sort of walking around that area or sort of close by. It's not far from Chatham, Pitt, CMU, Carlow, all of the universities that are in Oakland and even downtown. But the idea was to have this walk-in place where you didn't need to have an appointment, you didn't need to be an existing client, you could just kind of show up in our building and you would have someone to talk to you about whatever was going on, you being like a young person, 12 to 22. So if you've ever tried to access mental health services, you might know that it can be more difficult than you might expect. There can be long wait times. Insurance can be an issue sometimes, like the person you want to see doesn't take your insurance, or even with insurance, it's still really expensive and not something that fits into your budget, especially I think COVID has sort of affected all of our incomes to some degree. So we wanted to try to eliminate as many barriers as possible when we were thinking about UpStreet. I do have this note on here that our original vision included the opportunity for young people to access UpStreet and mental health services without needing an adult. And I will talk a little bit more about that later. And I also realize I am talking to a room full or a Zoom full of adults, and I'm assuming you have teenagers in your life. So I'm always careful to say, like, we are not discouraging adult or parental involvement. So please don't misunderstand that. So what we're actually doing, and what we ended up doing when things got shut down last March and we weren't really able to move forward with our physical space and renovating and opening, we've switched to this entirely virtual platform. So everything we offer is sort of based off of our website, which is upstreetpgh.org. So instead of offering walk-in services, we have these, what we're calling drop-in services, where anyone can come to the website and we have a chat feature. So you can just start typing in the chat, access a person, talk about whatever it is you need to talk about. You can schedule an appointment to talk to somebody more. You can schedule an intake appointment with our therapist. It's all sort of run off of this website. So the nice thing about this, or the, I don't know, silver lining or the upside of COVID shutting everything down, is that I don't think we would have ever thought about offering services in this way had we not been forced to. And what it really means for us and for you and for young people all over the county, I think, is that we are way more accessible in this virtual space than we would have been otherwise. So I said we were going to be located in Squirrel Hill. We still have plans to open something in Squirrel Hill, but I don't think the virtual piece is ever going to go away. Um, because I don't know, I've grown up in Pittsburgh. I don't know how many of you have lived here most or all of your lives, but in Pittsburgh we like to stay in our own neighborhoods, right? We don't really cross rivers. We don't, like, my mother-in-law doesn't drive on bridges, which is really limiting because there are a lot of bridges in Pittsburgh. So being online opens us up to a lot more people, a lot more young adults that would have never been in Squirrel Hill, or whose parents would never take them to Squirrel Hill, or who weren't going to get on a bus for an hour and a half to go to Squirrel Hill and talk to somebody about the fight they had with their boyfriend or girlfriend, right? So it really does make us more approachable and more accessible to more people than we ever could have imagined. Some things are the same. You still don't need an appointment to chat with somebody. We do not need to bill insurance. So if somebody decides to start a relationship with our therapist and engage in therapy, like traditional therapy, we don't have to bill insurance, which means that there is no cost. So that's really good news, because like I said, it's difficult to find free therapy. And even if you have insurance, copays can be really expensive. So even with insurance, it still might be cost prohibitive, and therefore not something that you're able to give your teenager, or that a teenager is able to access. So you still don't need an adult. I mean, a young person doesn't necessarily need an adult. They definitely don't need an adult to get on the chat feature. Anyone can do that. In Pennsylvania, the legal age of consent for mental health treatment is 14, which means technically anyone that is at least 14 years old can sort of engage in therapy on their own, and they don't need to bring their parents into it. Again, we do not discourage parents from being involved. But sometimes it's either a barrier for some reason or another. I was talking to somebody on the chat yesterday or the day before. He was saying, like, look, my mom said she would find me a therapist, but I still feel really uncomfortable talking to her about it again. Like, I don't want to bring it up. It still makes me feel kind of weird. So I would like to try to do this without her. So even the most supportive parents, teenagers are teenagers, and they, for whatever reason, might not want to ask, or they don't feel comfortable, or they think it's like a sign of weakness, or they might be judged by their parents, or whatever it is. So I want you to know and understand that if for whatever reason one of your kids or your teenagers started to see our therapist, she makes every effort to engage parents. And for the most part, I think what she has said is that she's been able to get on with most parents. So it really hasn't been so much of a barrier yet. Okay, so here are drop-in services, which is really the unique part about what we do. I think a lot of people offer therapy. Not everyone offers free therapy, but we have this chat bot, and I have some screenshots of it to show you. So basically what happens is you go on our website, upstreetpgh.org, and the chat bot pops up. And I think it just says, like, hi, how are you today? And you can ignore it and just look on the website and browse around, or you can click on it and answer some of the questions, and that sort of connects you with one of our staff. So our target population is 12 to 22 years old. So anyone between those ages can come onto the chat and talk with us. The chatbot is covered, meaning there's somebody there to talk to until 8 o'clock in the evening or the night, depending on your frame of reference, Monday through Friday, and then from 2 to 10 on Saturdays and Sundays. We were not originally open on the weekends, and we realized that we were missing a lot. There was a lot of activity and people were coming on a lot, which I think makes sense. So we changed our hours, and we're now there on the weekends. We do have humans, and I say it like that because the initial feedback we got was that people just said, like, can I talk to a human? Or like, are you a human? Is this a real person, or am I still talking to a robot or a bot? So we do have humans. The chat bot will, like, there's automatic questions that come up, but at every stage or every point of access to the chat bot, you can always say, like, can I talk to a person, or can I talk to a human? We do respond almost immediately, like within a few minutes, usually when we're online. And I'm also always sure to point out that we are not a crisis line. So you might be familiar with Resolve Crisis Network, which is the one of the crisis services in Allegheny County. They have a walk-in space. I think it used to be like on South Braddock. I don't know if it's still there or not. And they're a crisis line. So if it's like a real serious issue and usually things for like dangerous situations. If somebody is suicidal or somebody is really aggressive and being violent, and a family or an individual doesn't feel like they can handle it on their own, resolve can come out in those situations. So we are not a crisis line. That's not what our intention is. Those aren't the problems we're trying to address. If someone comes on and it becomes clear that they need more crisis level services, we refer them there, and we can call with them and we'll walk them through that whole process. So I'm assuming if you're here, you have teenagers or of your own, or you work with teenagers in some capacity. So you might know that, you know, I said there are resolve level crises, like there are serious, dangerous, violent situation crises. And then there are like the everyday crises that teenagers often find themselves in, right? So to them, it's a huge deal, and the world is ending and nothing's ever going to work out again, and whatever it may be. And they could often benefit from talking to somebody about those problems, but it's not like the level of crisis that you need to call the crisis team in to do a wellness check or to sort of bring in more authority figures like that. So we're sort of for those middle of the road, everyday problems. A lot of people that come onto the chatbot, a lot of the young people that come on are for things like relationship issues, a lot of school related things like stressed about school, stressed about being virtual for school, feelings of isolation. Lately, we've had a lot of that. A lot of kids or teens are lacking motivation. It seems like, I would say there have been like 4 or 5 conversations about not having motivation in the last few weeks. So those are the kinds of things that we are talking about with our chat users. I'm also going to point out that parents or concerned adults in a teen's life can also use the chat, because sometimes it might be that you're feeling unsure about what your kid is up to. Or I think a common question parents have is like, when should I be concerned? How much of what I'm seeing in my teenager is either like normal teenage stuff, it's hormonal things, it's, you know, doing virtual school for the last or for the entire school year, it's isolation and just sort of living under these circumstances. How much of that is normal, and when do I get concerned? When do I need to call somebody else to come in and help, or, you know, connect my teenager to a therapist? So the chatbot is also available to parents for those types of questions. Something else we hear from parents, especially parents of older teenagers, so maybe your kid has already graduated from high school, maybe they're in college, or maybe they're, you know, doing college from your house because they're virtual also, and that finding that balance between like, how do I help them and give them space to be an adult, like help without hovering kind of thing. So we're available to talk through these types of things with parents as well. So parents are welcome to come on the chatbot and talk to us, or request a phone call or make a phone call if you're more comfortable with that. Okay, so here are some screenshots of the chat just so you see what it looks like. So when you see the little robots picture, and actually we changed its name. Its name is Charlie Chatbot. Our youth advisory board named it that. We did a poll on Instagram to see what people wanted it to be called, and Charlie Chatbot won. So now instead of UpStreet, it says Charlie Chatbot. But anytime you see the robot, that means you're talking to the bot. It is not a person. So you can click these buttons. You know, you can say, I'm just looking around. Can I talk to a human, right? Like this first one here is the one that just pops up on the first page of the website on our homepage. On the website, there's also the option to click let's chat or talk now or something to that effect. And that's what will bring up this second window. So you can say, let's do it, which will take you to a live person to chat. You can ask to be called. Not everyone is comfortable chatting or texting like this, so a phone call is an option. Or you can have us call you. Or you can say like, no, I'm still just looking around. And the last picture here is the scheduling option. So if you wanted to schedule an intake with the therapist, you could do that here. If you wanted to schedule a time to talk to somebody, like maybe you're checking in on your lunch break and it's not a great time, you don't have 15 or 30 minutes to set aside, we can set up a time to talk more about what we do or what your concerns are. Some of the other things we do, I briefly just mentioned, we do have a youth advisory board, which is a group of local teenagers and early 20-somethings. We have a few college students on board. When we were creating UpStreet, it was really important to us to be mindful of the fact that we were creating something for young people. And so we wanted to have young people involved throughout the process. So they do truly advise us on things. Like I said, they named the chatbot. They contributed quite a bit to the design and the layout of our website. They write some of our blog posts. Like we really try to engage them as much as possible. So I also put this on here because we're always looking for new people. If you know somebody or one of your kids you think might be interested in participating in something like this, I would really like to be in touch with them and talk more about it. So please feel free to reach out to me or have them reach out to me. We offer groups, although I will be honest, our groups are not greatly attended, which I think makes sense. I think everyone's a little tired of Zoom calls, but we still offer them. And if people come, we're very happy about that. And if not, we just keep offering them. We're starting a peer mentoring program, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a minute. And on the website, we also have a blog, which is just like pointers, things about wellness in general or mental health related things. Some of our youth advisors write some of it. Our staff writes it as well. So the peer mentoring program, if your kid would be interested in being either a mentor or a mentee, we would be interested in talking to them about that. The idea is to sort of connect a pairing of young people with the mentor being slightly older than the mentee, and the mentor being someone that sort of like has some life experience, that maybe has dealt with some adversity or struggled with things and now feels that they've come out the other side of it, or feels like they have some knowledge and wisdom to pass down to other people and could help be a guide or a mentor for a younger person. And the mentee is sort of someone that could benefit from having a positive relationship with a slightly older peer. As you know, if you have teenagers, their peer group, social group is hugely important to them. And that is developmentally appropriate for them in this age and this stage of their development. So we're trying to sort of support teenagers in an age appropriate way or developmentally appropriate way. The peer mentoring was always meant to be a text-based program, and that is still the case. So the mentors will never meet in person. It will all be done via chat or texting rather. So we have software that we use so that all of the chats and all of the texts are monitored so that everything stays appropriate. We make sure that if things get escalated to like something beyond what another young person or teenager should be dealing with, then the adults and the staff are able to step in. So I'm, imagining things like a mentee might come, a person might want to be a mentee, things about like test anxiety, school stress, feelings of depression, anxiety, someone that struggles to make friends, maybe looking for advice on choosing a career path, feelings of loneliness, relationship challenges, like, again, some of these everyday things that come up in the life of a teenager. And then the mentor would be somebody that sort of has dealt with some of those things and sort of feels like they've had some success in dealing with it. Okay, that is all I have for my presentation. My contact information is up here if you can jot it down, but I can also share this with Kiyomi and Devon. I think it was also on all of the like publicity about this event. So there it is. We are here, we are available. We're happy to talk to you about whatever questions you have about parenting, about your teenagers, about what is going on. We're just kind of here for all of it. So I'm happy to answer questions right now. But if there are none, that's okay too.
Erin, I apologize if you happen to touch base on this, but did you happen to talk about the credentials of some of the people that are behind the chat box or that are doing some of the therapy?
Thank you. I did not, but I can. So our current staff at UpStreet is myself. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and we have our therapist who is a master's level clinician. She has her master's in counseling. The other people, so she's the one that sees people for therapy. We're hiring another therapist also because she's getting full. But the people that monitor the chatbot then are myself and the therapist, whose name's Stephanie. And we have some of the other therapists from our counseling department at Jewish Family and Community Services, as well as two MSW students, so they're masters in social work students, and a PsyD student, which is like a doctorate in psychology or counseling psychology. So everyone is master's level or in training to be a master's level professional, and it's all monitored on the back end by me. So just to make sure that everything, and when the students are on, we offer support, like my Stephanie or me will be there to sort of give guidance or make sure that they're okay with the way the conversation is going. So it's all appropriately staffed with people that have the credentials and the experience to be doing this kind of stuff.
I have a question.
Sure.
At the school where I work, I know that a student is struggling with some COVID related, some issues related to the pandemic and depression, and has asked their parents to help them access a therapist because they really feel the need to talk to someone. And so they are on a waiting list somewhere, and there's, they don't have any idea how long it's going to take before this person can get to see a therapist. This person is 11. Would you guys consider seeing someone younger than 12 with the parents' permission?
So that's a good question. I will have to think about that. We've drawn a pretty hard line at 12 being the youngest that we would see. But being that the parent is sort of involved, that might be something to consider. You bring up a good point though, because we do have a lot of people that sort of utilize us like in the meantime, right? While you're waiting that month or more to get in to see the therapist, using the chat bot for that purpose. So let me think about that one and I will get back to you. Are they like almost 12? Or are they pretty close to just turning 11?
No, they're just turning 11.
Yeah, I'll have to think about that because we did try to draw the line pretty strongly at 12 because
I can
think,
understand that.
Yeah, you're getting out of like, I mean, 10 or 11 is not really adolescent or tween. Right. I mean, that's still kind of kid. So I will let you know. I'm going to think about it.
Thanks.
Because I hate to see someone go without, right? Like, so I'm always a sucker.
Right. I was, I was surprised to hear that it was so hard to get to see a therapist.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
I do have a question, Erin, in regards to Mary, with someone who isn't 12, or could they call or contact UpStreet for a resource for adolescents?
Like, are they older than 12, you mean, or younger than 12?
Younger than 12. Would they be able to call, like a parent or guardian, be able to call UpStreet to get a referral to someone that does counseling for children under the age of 12?
Yes, absolutely. We just had someone came on yesterday for her 10-year-old son, and that's what we kind of said, sorry, we can't see him, but if you leave your email address, we will send you a list of other people that we refer to. So yes, absolutely.
Okay, great.
Yeah, 6 months. Yeah, Charlene, you're saying up to 6 months. I know, it's crazy. I know. And if your kid really needs something, or there's like this, there's that in that moment, like right now, something needs to happen. So we're hoping to fill that void, right? Like, and even, right. So whatever's going on right now, and then you call somewhere and they say like, oh, it's going to be 6 months. I mean, chances are in 6 months, whatever that was is now not there anymore and something else has happened, right? So there's been this whole time of like more and more unaddressed things going on with this kid. And so, yeah, if you've heard, and like I said, we're happy to be the, like in the meantime, people. So if people want to come on the chat or schedule these briefer, less frequent conversations with our therapist or use the chatbot for that purpose, we're absolutely open to that because it's, 6 months is too long to wait when especially when it feels like now.
Can you tell me a little bit more about the teen liaison? Like, what are you looking for in a teen liaison, and what's it like?
So the advisory board, I think a person that would do well is sort of someone that is maybe looking for some more community involvement, that wants to get involved with something and contribute to something, right? Like this is really a service that we're offering now much far beyond Squirrel Hill or the Hazelwood area. So somebody that wants to be involved, maybe it's somebody that has either a passion about mental health or has maybe experienced their own mental health journey or is living with mental health and feels like they have something to give back in that sense. Someone that wants to be involved. We meet every 2 weeks or every other week or so. The days alternate because they're very busy. And so finding a day for everyone to be available is challenging, but we meet every other week, usually for just 30 minutes. They're pretty short. I don't know. 30 minutes seems to be the magic number for teen groups or teenagers. That's like the attention span or the time span they're willing to commit. And if you know somebody or you have a kid that might be interested, have them get in touch with me. I'm happy to talk more about it. They're kind of our ambassadors. They sort of guide us and give us advice and make sure that what we're doing is relevant and appropriate and would be interesting to young people.
Now, is this something like they volunteer the amount of hours they can, or do you guys like say, okay, well, Tuesday night you be on the chat bot, or how does that work?
That's a good question. Yeah, so we don't have a set number of hours or a time commitment we're asking, other than sort of being available most of the time every other week and attending as many meetings as possible. At this point, we do not have them covering the chatbot. We've talked about it. They actually had the idea of doing like an Ask the Advisory Board kind of evening, or having it set up so that they were there to answer questions and it would be monitored, obviously. But at this point, they're not covering the chatbot. It's too new, and it's just sort of, it's some of the things that come up on the chatbot aren't appropriate for a junior in high school to be dealing with. Beyond, like, that's sort of what the peer mentoring program we're hoping is going to do, to offer that peer-to-peer support, but not sort of in the moment crisis or, dealing with some kind of issue type of situation. Because we also don't want to put too much on them, right? Like they shouldn't be responsible for dealing with somebody who's really getting into deep discussions about feelings of depression or lacking motivation, or this is going on in this part of my life. Like, it's kind of heavy sometimes, and we don't want them to have to feel responsible for that. It's a lot to deal with.
Are there any other questions? Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Erin, so much for spending this time with us and just giving us all of that wonderful information about this awesome program. I really hope, getting this information out there will have more people utilizing it, because I know it's a service that's definitely needed right now, as a lot of you testified to. So yeah, thank you so much. Erin's information is in the chat. It's also posted on our Facebook, and then we'll also make sure to post it on the YouTube page. And then if you have any more questions, please feel free to reach out to Erin. But yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It was great chatting with you.
Have a great night, everybody.
Thanks.